Story 1. Food packages that are resealable use glue to adhere the seal zip to the bag, but the glue is weaker than the seal. When you go to reopen the seal zip pulls away from the bag, and the resealable feature is lost. Story 2. The push here perforated part of a cardboard box, such as a box of kosher salt or cornstarch, never works. Instead, it dents the box and makes it even harder to open. Story 3. Any product with removable stickers that do not peel off easily and leave residue requiring a strong adhesive remover is frustrating. Story 4. I understand that battery compartments need to be made more difficult for young children to open, especially those who put everything into their mouths. However, was using a screw the best solution? A tiny screw, threaded into plastic, and made of the softest metal available? Story 5. Every streaming service that has a series should have a reset series button for rewatches. As it is, the second time I watch a series, every episode either starts at the credits or it just gets confused about which episode to play next. So it is totally unreliable for the second watch. Edit. Adding 2 good suggestions from other comments. One person said that Hulu allows you to delete a series from your watch history, which would accomplish this if you go into the watch history menu. That is a bit buried, but props to Hulu if that works. Another commenter said you can create a temporary profile for each rewatched show on most streaming services and then delete that profile once the rewatch is over. I have not tried that, but it sounds like a clever workaround. Credit to those 2 users for those ideas. Story 6. Deodorant caps are smooth plastic and impossible to open with wet or recently moisturized hands. Would it be difficult to add a couple of ridges to those caps? Story 7. Shampoo bottles that flip open so easily in luggage but never when you are in the shower with slippery hands. Story 8. Where are my files? Windows, Apple, and other systems try to hide the location where they store their files. I do not want to default to storing on OneDrive. I just want to be able to find my files. Story 9. Shampoo and conditioner labels look identical if you are not wearing glasses. I have an idea for a brand called shampoo or conditioner for people with glasses, with the first letter of shampoo being large. Story 10. The little blue cheese dressing dipping cups for wings should be oblong, not circular. This shape allows you to dip a wing on its side properly. Story 11. Microsoft Outlook calendar. Show me upfront who accepted, and if someone proposes a new meeting time, just give me a big accept button. Story 12. Why does my stove, oven, or microwave not have a battery that can withstand a 0.008 second power outage, so I do not have to reset the time? Story 13. Scissors that come in that very tough double-layered plastic that can only be opened by another pair of scissors. Story 14. The toilet brush should be fully water repellent, so that it does not retain toilet water after use. Story 15. The seal on bottles that has the small piece of plastic you are supposed to pull to remove it absolutely never works. They should save the plastic and just have us do what we are going to do anyway. Story 16. Expiration dates on food packaging can be difficult to find. They should always be clearly displayed on the front main label. Story 17. It used to be that the next tissue would effortlessly pop up out of the Kleenex box, ready for use. Now you have to reach into the box, search for a tissue edge, peel one off the clump, and hope you do not rip it while pulling it through the plastic opening. Story 18. Whoever set the arbitrary length of the average bathtub needs to be dangled out of a window by their ankles, in my humble opinion. Story 19. The clear plastic film on items like potato salad has a tiny tab you are supposed to grab to peel it off. The battery packaging is indestructible. Story 20. Tabs on food packaging. I think someone out there believes they did a great job inventing something that enables people to give a slight pull and, hey presto, bacon. Sadly, no. That person is living a lie. Story 21. Trying to type anything on a search with the television remote is excruciating. It is 2025. Is this the best we can do? Story 22. Individual fruit cups. No matter how I hold them or how carefully I try to peel the plastic, the liquid spills every time. I hardly ever buy them because of this. I can just imagine the mess children make if they are packed in their lunch. Story 23. Any tube-based product where you cannot squirt out the last of the non-Newtonian goop, such as ketchup and toothpaste. Story 24. Playgrounds. 90% of playgrounds were designed by people who have not interacted with a child since they were 1 year old and have forgotten their entire childhoods. Let's make sure the slide is a dark color and angled so it is exposed directly to the sun for most of the day. That should not be a problem, right? The bottom will be shaped so that all the dirty rainwater pools at the end for days after it has rained. That will take care of that. There are many other toys and baby products that were clearly not designed by parents, but playgrounds are among the worst. Story 25. When trying to highlight something to copy and paste it elsewhere, why has the highlighting become less precise and harder to use? Sometimes it includes a space after the highlighted words even if no space exists. On some web pages, it never selects the portion of text you want. Microsoft products, Salesforce, and online platforms are major offenders. It also seems worse in some browsers than others, like Firefox. Do people know what I am talking about? This happens on multiple PCs in different environments, so it is not just my setup. The user interface seems to get worse over time. Also, if Microsoft could avoid changing Notepad, that would be helpful. I want a place where I can paste text to remove any invisible markup tags or language. Story 26. I have yet to buy a vacuum cleaner with a cord long enough to cover my entire living room. One more foot, and I would not have to change plugs in the middle of vacuuming. It annoys me every time. Story 27. Why don't toilets have a pedal you can step on to raise and lower the seat? If you stand to urinate, put one foot on the pedal and it will lift the seat. Walk away and it will go down automatically. Story 28. Trying to place your cursor on iPhone texts can be difficult. If I make a spelling mistake 2 sentences ago, it is almost impossible to get the cursor to go to the right place to make the correction. It highlights the entire word or moves 1 or 2 letters or entire words away from where I am trying to correct. You can drag and drop the cursor, but that always seems to work worse for me. Story 29. Those stretchy seals on some condiments, such as ketchup, do not allow anything to come out of the bottle until you squeeze it hard enough to release the condiment. If you want a thin line or a small dollop, the best you can get is half the bottle. Story 30. Allow me to introduce the supposed world's best design company. They pioneered a very innovative way of charging a mouse where you cannot use it while charging. I am talking about the Apple Magic Mouse, and of course, this mouse is useless compared to something like a Logitech MX Master 3. Story 31. Absolutely any product that has an electrical cord should have cord management built in. The worst offender is my coffee maker. It makes the whole counter look untidy because the stiff cord will not stay hidden. Story 32. Any kind of squeeze bottle that cannot be stood on its head, such as ketchup, mustard, shampoo, and conditioner. When it is almost empty, allow me to stand it upside down so the last bit can flow to the opening. Story 33. The cardboard boxes have perforated press sides to easily pour their contents. Story 34. Just a general observation. It feels like many products I use do not work well or were never used by the people designing them. It is so common that my wife just rolls her eyes when I start a rant about it. I cannot decide whether it is because it is cheaper to produce them this way so the companies do not care, or B, the designers cannot be bothered to care. Probably both. Story 35. Honda Civic, 2017. After 40,000 kilometers, the front end became loose. It rattles a lot over small bumps, and Honda claims it is not a problem. They cannot fix it, so they say it is a design characteristic, not a flaw. The dealership was dishonest in supporting the Honda company. Story 36. The reseal sticker on ground coffee never sticks. Not even once. You always have to use your own tape. Story 37. Steel paint cans are incredibly messy to pour paint from into a pan or cutting cup. Then, you have to try to wipe the paint out of the groove so you can close it without spattering paint everywhere. Sealing it to prevent drying before you want to touch up the room. However, when you do open it again, it is often rusted inside, and as soon as you pry off the lid, rust particles fall into the paint you need. Professional painters do not worry about this since they are long gone when you need to open the can again. I was recently impressed by Home Depot's new paint system with plastic cans and pouring lids. Goodbye, Benjamin Moore. Hello, Bear. Story 38. On Mac OS, the Finder, which is the file browser, has no default sort or view functionality. Everything is organized folder by folder, and there is no simple way to open all folders in list view. Many articles discuss hacks or scripts to achieve this, but the process is unnecessarily complicated. Story 39. Women's public restrooms should have bars for older people and individuals with disabilities to assist in standing up in all stalls. Seats need to be a sturdy design, not something to squat over or line with toilet paper. Multiple hooks are necessary so that items such as coats, purses, and shopping bags do not touch the floor. Stalls should be wider to avoid bumping into belongings. Toilet paper should be easy to find at the edge. Installing bidets could be a solution. Other countries have addressed these issues and many others, but we remain stuck in our dysfunctions. Story 40. Well, this has been a successful expedition. I wonder which of these products will be on a Kickstarter shortly. Story 41. Cereal and chip bags that do not reseal after they are opened. Use it or lose it. Either way, you have to buy more sooner than you would if companies sold resealable packages. Story 42. Zip technology has not changed for a very long time, and the zipper on my jacket still gets caught in the cloth. Story 43. I have a recurring fantasy where I have the authority to mandate chief executive officers and other higher-level personnel of companies to appear before me. I hand them a sample of all the products they make and make them open the items. No hints, tips, or utensils, just teeth and fingernails. I film it and post it so everyone can see. We're talking about those paper covers under the lids of things that you have to stab to get a good enough grip to open the milk. Ziploc packets of cheese. Looking at you, Sargento. Where the tiny strip of plastic on top you have to remove to access the zip is almost impossible to separate into two pieces so you can zip. The tiny ketchup packets that you are supposed to be able to tear off a corner but need scissors to open. The endless varieties of cardboard boxes that cave in but remain otherwise intact, failing to provide access to the macaroni and cheese, pasta, crackers, or whatever. That annoying little plastic tab under creamers you have to pull to get to the cream after you already removed the lid. I want to publicly humiliate those people who are wealthy and have staff to open stuff for them. Be like a kid with an orange. Hand it to them and tell them to start it for me. Do not even get me started on odd configurations of cardboard boxes and the most diligent glue in the world that one will not allow you to just open the lid to get to the crackers, and two, boxes like the ones coffee pods come in where hundreds of monkeys banging on typewriters could produce the complete works of the Library of Congress before I can figure out how to break the box down and fit it in the trash can. Thank you for letting me get this out of my system. I am done now. Story 44. Successfully pulling plastic wrap to the required length, cutting it, and placing it on the item in a neat rectangle or square. Story 45. Trash cans that do not fit standard-sized trash bags come with stickers that are impossible to remove. Story 46. Reaching for the loperamide anti-diarrhea box you hurriedly bought, only to discover the pills are individually bubble-sealed in plastic that takes over 10 minutes to separate to get just one pill at a time. Solution. Just accept the situation and apologize to everyone with you in the car for the rest of the 10-hour trip. Story 47. Volume on streaming channels. Can we all agree on what is in volume and just let everyone scale from that? Watching Netflix volumes is okay. Switching to Hulu blows me out of my seat until I can find the remote. Story 48. The small cutout to open a resealable bag does not open it, and you have to use scissors to cut it open. Alternatively, the rip damages the resealable part. The tear can be so close that you cannot open the bag. Story 49. Sig Sauer P320. Widely known to discharge spontaneously, and the manufacturer denies it every time. They say it is user error, and I agree. The error was the user deciding to be anywhere near a P320. Story 50. The juice boxes with the small straws always feel like there is some juice left in the box after you have sucked everything out with the straw. The same goes for the milk cartons with the plastic pour tab on the top. Story 51. Outlook makes finding an old email impossible, even when searching with the correct keywords, especially when it is in a folder specifically saved for later and not deleted. Story 52. The doors in bathroom stalls, why is the gap so big? And why do they insist on making them swing inward in such a small space? I practically have to climb the toilet to get around the door to get out. Story 53. I dislike how paying with Apple Pay on your phone can be unpredictable. Double-click the side button correctly, and the payment is made. Double-click it slightly incorrectly, and the phone shuts off. Story 54. Hellmann's mayonnaise packets that they hand out at fast food restaurants. The perforated open here corner works great if you have strong finger strength. Story 55. Hulu does not provide a mark as watched option to mark an episode of a show as watched. Story 56. Cars are designed to travel at speeds far exceeding the speed limit, often with poor visibility and reckless acceleration. They also come equipped with features that distract the driver. Story 57. Everything below the waist of a human. Placing reproductive organs next to the anus and having it serve double duty as an excretion exit. Kneecaps that can be easily damaged. Unprotected shins. Ankles that can easily be injured by twisting in one direction. Achilles tendons that can easily rupture. This engineering company needs to be fired. Story 58. Clunky streaming user interface. Why don't I have the option to remove watched shows from my saved lists without having to navigate with 6 clicks? Story 59. A spray bottle that contains a product you bought and the sprayer stops working. Either it stops spraying altogether, breaks, or the adjustment from spray to stream gets stuck on one setting or the other. Story 60. Student loans or debt, the entire higher education system, and all the expenses that come with it in non-subsidized countries. Story 61. General Motors cars will have their reverse lights on when the car is not in reverse, such as when you unlock it. This causes a lot of confusion for other drivers in parking lots. Story 62. Buying something from a home goods store, such as Winners or HomeSense, and trying to peel off the adhesive price tag that does not come away clean, leaving little bits of sticky residue all over the purchase. So annoying. Story 63. Perforated tear tabs in boxes have become significantly shallower over the years. As a result, the perforation rarely tears properly, and instead you often just dent the box. Story 64. Microsoft Excel interprets any combination of numbers from 1 to 12 followed by a slash or hyphen, and then numbers from 1 to 31 as a date unless you apply a manual workaround for each entry. Story 65. Reddit. If I accidentally touch my screen while scrolling, it goes back to the first post. Then I scroll repeatedly to get back to where I was. This happens to me every night. Story 66. Blundstone work boots. The material cannot withstand heavy use, but they are still marketed as work boots. Story 67. I do not know if it is a flaw, but it feels like packaging with zipper lock closures has become ridiculous. I have started cutting anything with a zipper lock because it is so difficult to open. Story 68. Scotch finger biscuits. They really look like they should break down the middle every time, do they not? Story 69. Glasses should have adjustable parts to ensure the right fit. Everyone's face is different, and many people's ears are not level, so this would make it much easier, more practical, and comfortable. It would also prevent people like me from snapping the arms off by continuously trying to bend them to fit level on my face. Story 70. Bath bombs are shrink-wrapped. Someone needs to come up with a better way to package them. Opening them often involves shredding part of the bomb. Thanks a bunch for sticking around till the end of the video. Remember to subscribe, and until next time, stay awesome and goodbye.